Welcome back to Reach Out Reptiles, everybody. My name is Garrett Hartle, and in this video we are going to talk about clutch 14 from this year. In other words, hashtag CL23014. There's nothing more fun as a retic breeder than watching a baby take its very first breath. And whether it's a good or a bad thing, I have never been able to help once I see what it comes out and I go, oh wow, we've achieved X, Y, and Z results. They would look even better with this. And pursuing that, at least even in your mind, into a new direction in the future. That's exactly what we've done with this project. This is kind of a next step for a dream morph combo that we actually have already created here at Reach Out Reptiles. So if you look at the sire, or the father of this clutch, he is the result of trying to get 3 different morphs together. Now this particular male was produced by our friend Don Munson. So we took the purple albino and the anerythristic, 2 different recessive genetic traits, which are very hard to put together, but we got those together for a crazy new color palette that we call in the industry a snow. Once we had that color palette, we thought, how cool would it be to put the golden child pattern, or really lack of pattern, into that color palette where you would have kind of a almost highlighter green and ivory base color of a snake with those dark purple contrasting patterns running down the spine. Now, in order to get all those things together, we had to blend dwarf and superdwarf genetic traits. So it's a little easier a lot of times to get different mutations into the dwarf side and then work on shrinking the bloodline down. So you have this back and forth of breeding towards color and pattern and then breeding towards size, color, pattern, size, over and over again. This step was taking what we already had in Superdwarf, which were the snows, and combining it with the golden child. And in order to do that, the sire is 25% Superdwarf and 25% dwarf. Now, he grew up to be a really small adult, which is awesome, but as soon as we had that snow golden child, again, that thought popped into my head, we need to make this smaller. Enter the dam. Now this dam is actually from one of my favorite high percentage Superdwarf bloodlines, and that is produced by Richard Bilbo. He actually bred the mother of this animal. They have chaotic patterns, bold contrast, and very high percentage Superdwarf, resulting in a smaller sized adult. Besides their pattern, this bloodline tends to have a great personality and super manageable size. I mean, you can see her size here as a breeder female is awesome by Superdwarf standards. So putting these 2 animals together gets the genetic ingredients of the male into a higher percentage, ultimately 50% Superdwarf bloodline. But because the last generation in getting the snow golden child was bred towards that color and pattern combo, this generation was made to dramatically reduce size as much as possible. Now here's one of the most exciting and potentially heartbreaking things about breeding reticulated pythons. Not everybody likes doing this, but I know that I do. I love the surprise. So the Richard Bilbo female was what we would refer to as 66% possible het for albino. And with this snow male, when he bred to her, it ultimately proved that she did not carry albinism in her genetic makeup. However, because she was a visual anery, and the male, remember, being a snow means he's visual anery and albino, the resulting babies were 100% of the clutch was visual anerythristic, which looks awesome on its own. It's one of my favorite mutations, honestly, but it looks great in the golden child too, changing what would normally be like a coffee brown type of a snake into these metallic charcoal gray, almost with hints of sometimes blue and purple. So to get that animal in those awesome charcoal gray anery hues with the golden child in there, it also carries the purple albino morph. So these are now 50% Superdwarf, Anery Goldenchild, 100% het albinos. They look incredible on their own, and they have a ton of breeding potential for the future. What would you guys do? I'm interested to know with the breeding potential of these animals. In the comments below, if you want to let me know what you think that next generation should go towards, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Why don't you guys think about that while we take a look at these babies? So the first thing is going to be the Anery babies. What the anerythristic gene does is it removes a lot of the red coloration from the animal, leaving behind a almost semi-transparent base color that is just charcoal gray, light chrome, silver, very Raiders-esque color theme in the babies. And occasionally as they grow, they'll develop some greenish tints to them. Now, these are the babies that do not have that Goldenchild morph, so they have what would be kind of your wild type or standard reticulated python pattern. But because of the blend of the different island localities mixing into whatever mainland variety is left to get the albino and the Goldenchild in there, you see this incredible battle within the pattern and the color of the Kalatoa island, the Jampea island, and then that mainland locality fighting to come out in each baby. So when you look from one baby to the next, even though they're technically all the same morph, that anerythristic, you'll see actually a tremendous amount of variety. Some with thick and bold blacks going all down the pattern of the snake. Others with very reduced pattern when it comes to the black and a cleaner background. And still others that are so highly colored as babies that while they maintain that anery color tone, you can already see the areas that are going to begin to sprout a brilliant green as they grow. Looking at these wild type babies is one of my favorite ways to determine the potential for a bloodline, and I think selecting holdbacks with specific traits like wider black or thinner black is critical in what mutations that you want to breed them further into in the future. All right, now it's that time that we need to take a look at the coup de grace of this morph, the best genetic potential that you can get, which is the Anery Goldenchild 100% het for albino. These babies are incredible. Personally, I love the way that the Goldenchild expresses itself on Superdwarfs. Something funny that I've noticed about the Anery morph, and this might just be me noticing it, recognizing a pattern over the years. I don't know that there's like an established truth to this that's well understood within the industry, but I do think it's something we're gonna find out here pretty soon in the future, is that the Anery tends to tweak the pattern a little bit. So where a typical Goldenchild would be a highly speckled animal, and especially when you bred it into this much Kalatoa, you would expect just lots of small speckling. What happens, the Anery can kind of pull together the pattern, clumping it up in different regions, which creates a much more interesting expression of what the Goldenchild is trying to do. So on top of the base colors of those deep dark chromes that are kind of blended together for a patternless look all down the sides of the animal, which really makes these Anery Goldenchild stand out, you have this interesting kind of clumping effect happening with that Goldenchild morph down the dorsal pattern of the snake. That's really exciting on its own, but one of the things that really gets me going about Goldenchilds, probably ultimately my favorite thing about them, is the impact that that morph has on what we call the head stamp, the eye color, and the base color on the head. So if we look closely at the head of an Anery Goldenchild, what you're gonna see is what I was referring to as those kind of purplish tones that are created by reflecting up from deeper layers within that semi-translucent look. So much of the head around the cheeks is devoid of melanin, the pigment that produces the black. Because what the Goldenchild does is it kind of gathers up all of that melanin, all of that black pigment from the base areas and stacks it together into almost like a Maltese cross or a really thick, bold, black, heavy head stamp. Because of the separation of the melanin to the two different areas on the head, that's where you get that light, translucent, almost like a lilac purple type of gray on the animal, and that deep, bold, rich black that really sets the head off. One of the things that all of you ladies who wear eyeliner and mascara know is that having dark pigments around your eyes really makes them pop, and this is an absolute highlight of this particular combo with the anerythristic and the Goldenchild together. You see, the Anery gene not only removes that reddish pigment from the body, but it also takes it away from the eyes, leaving behind an almost white eye in many cases, like a very, very light silver. Think of like an aluminum color. If that wasn't cool enough, the Goldenchild tends to clump extra black pigment on the postocular stripe, the stripe that comes back from the eye, and around the eye itself, giving them that mascara kind of punk, let's say Avril Lavigne type of a look on these beautiful animals. Now, it'll take time to see the true growth potential of these animals, but using a small dwarf and Superdwarf cross male as we did to a very high percentage Superdwarf female should yield the smallest possible results that we can from that combination. If you guys want to follow along, remember to use that hashtag CL23014, and you can actually watch everybody who gets these animals and enjoy them growing up from afar. Or if you end up being the lucky owner of an animal from Clutch 14 this year, you can connect with the community of snake aunties and uncles by following and using that hashtag in social media whenever you refer to these clutches. We'd love to thank our patrons, and I especially want to know what you would do if you had the option of watching one of these babies poke their nose out of the egg for the first time, crawl out into your hand, witness the results between the size genetics and all of the different morphs that are in there. What's the future direction you would go to continue to refine this project? Let us know in the comments section below. And if you guys want to learn from more videos like this, be sure to hit that like button and we'll know that you like it. That's it for us this week, guys. We will catch you next time.